Hi, I'm Danielle, and this is Chatter Out Loud, a podcast where I share thoughts and TV commentary on shows I like to watch. Now, before I start, I want to ask that you go ahead and like, follow, share, and subscribe. And on YouTube, where I upload my companion episode of my podcast, be sure to hit the notification bell. This way you can get notified every time I post a new episode, and you won't miss out. It doesn't cost you anything to follow and subscribe, so go ahead, hit the bell, and thank you in advance. So welcome, and I thank you so much for joining me. Your presence is very much appreciated. Okay, I wanted to come back and share one more live feeds update today, and I have another spoiler, and I'll share that a little later on. I'm going to do my very best to keep this short. All right, I watched the live feeds on and off today, and I learned a few things. Well, first, we saw the alliance form on premiere night, and the first alliance we saw was the Honey Bunch. They were the first 4 house guests to enter the house, and they were Summer, Gino the Greek, JC Lynn, and Dr. Josh. I honestly can't tell if this alliance is even a real thing anymore. I think it may be just an unspoken thing, like they'll look out for each other, but I'm really not sure. But that was notably the first alliance. We saw that form on premiere night. Okay, then we saw the guys align, right? Herman, Dr. Josh, and Moose. And they aligned during Herman's HOH, right? Meaning Herman, relied on Moose and Dr. Josh to give him input in terms of who should go on the block. Moose, of course, had a lot of influence, right, over Herman. He had a lot to say. Moose is really playing the game. All right, so those guys aligned during Herman's HOH. Then there appears to be an alliance between JC Lynn, Gino the Greek, Stephanie, Kyle, and Herman. I don't know who originated this alliance, but this appears to be a thing. So we'll have to see how this plays out. I honestly try to watch the interaction of people because there are several people who are in multiple alliances, and we know that can get tricky, right? If I'm in one alliance and my alliance team members wants to target someone in an alliance let me start over. It can get tricky because if I'm in one alliance and the alliance wants to target someone else that I happen to be in an alliance with as well, it can get tricky because where would my loyalties lie, and how could I maneuver to keep the people I'm aligned with safe? So that can get very, very tricky. All right. Next, there's a 7-person alliance, which if we have seen BB history, or if we know BB history, an alliance this big can fall apart very quickly. But if they are on the same page, they can dominate the season, right? And we've seen that too. I don't think it will happen with these 7, but who knows? I've been wrong before in the Big Brother world. So let me tell you who the 7 people are in this alliance. They are Kyle, Herman, Moose, Summer, Tanisha, Gino the Greek, and Dr. Josh. And they named this alliance the Savage 7. Now, I haven't heard the names of the other alliances, but clearly you can see when people are in rooms and talking, you can see who's aligned. And so this is what I'm sharing of what I picked up. All right. And then there is a second all guys alliance. The first all guys alliance were only 3 members. They were Herman, Moose, and Dr. Josh, right? And that formed during Herman's HOH. And then we have this second guy alliance, and that's with Marty, Gino the Greek, Kyle, and Moose. And if you notice, don't you hear a few names in there a lot? Like I hear a lot in these alliances. I hear Moose a lot. I hear Kyle a lot. I hear Gino a lot. Yeah. So to me, these are the ones who are, I think they're the biggest threats in the game, just based on how they're maneuvering, right? They're socializing, they're connecting with different people, they're in multiple alliances, 3 or more, if I'm not mistaken, each of those guys. So I want to see how they continue to play this, right? Now, Tanisha, Summer, and Jay have been chatting, and it appears that they could be aligned, right? They connect really well. And so I think they may have an understanding to watch each other's back. So we'll have to see. I also think that Jay is trying to align with Herman. And that is as a result of a conversation they were in earlier. Jay proposed to work with the girls to get information, and Herman would work with the guys, and then they'll work together. I don't know if that'll work at all, nor do I believe this is a true alliance. I think the reason Jay approached Herman is because Jay knew he was going on the block, and he's trying to work the game. And I'll talk about that a little later in terms of Jay on the block and whether or not that really happened. So I'll talk about that a little later. All right, notably absent from any alliances are Jess, Betty, Helena, and Kevin. I'm not surprised by any of this. Although, out of those four, Betty is really socializing. So, I think she's flying under the radar a little. Helena, I think she's underestimated right now, only because she's kind of clumsy, but she's also talking with people and she's socializing. Kevin is kind of isolated, or isolating himself. There aren't a lot of discussions with him from other house guests. Just tonight, he was talking with JC Lynn after the nomination ceremony, or the HOH ceremony. Yeah, nomination ceremony. And JC Lynn was trying to end the conversation and walk away, and he kept talking like, it's nice to have somebody to talk to because people don't really talk game to me. Now, because we were introduced to Kevin as him wanting to be this big villain, and he was smarter than everyone in the room, and he was just going to be cutthroat and all of this other stuff he said. This could be a ploy, maybe, right? Where he's playing like he doesn't know the game. He's playing like no one talks to me. So I think he's trying to build sympathy with others, but that's not going to last long. But again, I could be wrong, right? That's just an observation I have. I firmly believe that Jess, right? Because Jess is in any alliance. She's trying her hard. She's trying their hardest, right? In my last feed's update, I said Jess was becoming the house target, and now I believe Jess is a house target, meaning that if anything goes wrong with original nominees and Jess is still in the house, Jess will be thrown right up there as a replacement nominee. I just believe that. Jess struggles a lot with connecting with the other house guests. Jess struggles a lot with allowing people to finish a sentence. Jess interrupts them mid-sentence. It's rather off-putting. The conversations with Jess, when Jess speaks, comes across kind of forceful, and they want you to hear them. As an example, Jess would say things like this: I need you to listen. Let me finish. Hey, I need you to listen because I don't know if you hear me. You have to understand. Like, it's almost like pleading with someone. Please listen to me. Listen to me. It's desperate. It's a little off-putting. Well, frankly, it's annoying, right? And I don't believe Jess is likable. Not within the Big Brother house. None of the house guests like her, like them. And you'll hear me interchange they, them, she, her, because those are Jess's pronouns. But in my last episodes, I kept saying she when I referred to Jess because that's one of Jess's pronouns. But I'm learning that if someone has a they, them pronoun, even if they say she or her as a pronoun, you should go with they and them. So I'm trying to be respectful. All right. I guess what I want to say is Jess is not likable in the house. I think Jess is the house target. And Jess is struggling a lot to connect with the other house guests. Jess is really, really trying, but it's just not working. And I think the other house guests find Jess as expendable. And so I don't think Jess's game will last long. But then again, it could, because we see a lot in BB history, or, players where they said, oh, we can get that person later, or we just hold on to them in case we need something, as a backup plan, right? And that always goes wrong. Who knows? What am I saying? No one likes Jess in the house. Jess could be a great person on the outside, but within the Big Brother game, Jess is struggling. Okay. I also want to point out the people that are in 3 or more alliances. And those people are Herman, Kyle, Gino, Moose, and Summer. Yeah. So they are in 3 or more alliances. And remember, being in multiple alliances can be very tricky. I did want to back up to say one more thing about Jess. Another example is that there have been now 3 house guests that are turned off by Jess. The first one is Moose. Remember, they had an argument about food at the table. Then the next one was Tanisha. And that's because Jess continues to call Tanisha another name, like Tia or something like that. But Jess is not calling Tanisha. So that can be like, that's rude, right? Learn the person's name, and Jess is big on individualism and people being themselves and respecting people. How come Jess can't respect Tanisha in terms of learning her name and calling her the right name? I think there was even a time that Tanisha told Jess, you can just say T, you don't even have to remember anything but the first letter of the name. and Jess still calls Tanisha another name, and it's just off-putting. And then the third person is Summer. I haven't found out what Jess did to Summer yet, but Summer feels disrespected by Jess. So we'll have to see how all this plays out. But I was just bringing that up because that is just another example of how much Jess is struggling in the house to make connections. And making connections is very important. All right, a little bit about the HOH conversations. Marty had them today. People were in and out of that room. Basically, as I was trying to explain earlier about Jess and how Jess interrupts people in mid-sentence and repeats themselves over and over and over again. We saw that with the conversation that Jess and Marty had. It just was so uncomfortable to watch. And I want to yell through the screen, Jess, stop it. Be quiet. It's okay to be silent for a few seconds. It's just so, it's annoying to watch, let alone, I can't even imagine being in the conversation. It's just annoying to watch. Oh my goodness. All right. So Jess was just pleading with Marty, please keep me. I'm telling you, we are the older people. I can be an asset for you. And it just sounded so desperate. All right. Then the conversation with Jay and Marty, that was cut short because Big Brother called Marty into the diary room. So basically Jay didn't have much time to plead their case. And so Marty basically said, Jay, I'm putting you on the block. Just said, yeah, I'm putting it. And Jay was like, well, I have nothing to go back to, you were never my target. I quit my job. I just want to stay until jury. And he was saying all those things. And I hear people say that a lot in Big Brother, I just want to stay until jury. Everybody has that same story. I didn't have any sympathy for Jay in that moment. But it appears to have lit a fire under Jay. So we'll see. All right. Okay. So today Marty had to make the nominations. He had to nominate 2 house guests to put on the block. And they are, spoiler alert, Jay and JC Lynn. Yep, Jay and JC Lynn have been nominated for eviction. I believe that Marty's target is Jay. I don't know if this is a smart move. Clearly, there are bigger targets, or bigger threats, I should say, like Dr. Josh, Herman, and Stephanie. But I think Marty and Stephanie made a deal during the HOH competition, so he held his word and didn't put Stephanie up. But she is a threat, you guys. Even though Big Brother Canada tried to present her as being vain and not so smart, the girl is playing this game. She's very social. She can compete. She was one of the last 2 people in this last HOH competition. So, yeah, she is a threat in the game. She just is, right? And Dr. Josh, Herman, and Stephanie aren't in an alliance with Marty. So I don't know if this is a good move for him, but we'll see. Tomorrow they are playing the power of veto, so we will see what happens with the POV and whether or not the nominations remain the same. Okay. This cast is not disappointing. They're playing the game. They're all playing it in their own way. They have alliances. There's drama. There's emotion. But it appears that they are playing the game, and I like it. All right. And that's all I have. So be sure to come back, give me a listen. I'd love for you to like, share, follow, and subscribe. You can also leave me a message. Leave me a comment. Right? If you're listening to the podcast, there's a link to leave me a message. So you have to check that out. Okay. My name is Danielle, and you're listening to my podcast, Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I appreciate your support. And that's all I have. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.